Hi, this is Baruch, broadcasting to the SOD group on the American Kabbalah Network. Because we're the Americans and we're learning Kabbalah. So if we're following the Seder of the Otzrot chaim, we're on page Vav, at the top of the page. We're coming really closer to the end of the Sharei Gulin. So let's see what the Rav has to say as we start to finish up these concepts. So we said that the line proceeds in and it makes an igul, which is called keser. And then as the line proceeds a little bit more, another igul comes in, it's called chochma. Each one of them has 10 igulim along with them. So you have to imagine a series of concentric circles, which you said, okay, think about an onion. Now notice that the Rav, he's teaching us a little bit of language, so we have to use the words that he's using, and you'll see that in other places. There are different possibilities, but the Rav has a very, very deep and complete set of understandings of how to be able to come close to the Almighty and also the radiance of the Almighty, what it looks like, and so we'll start picking up his words. Now, Abba refers usually to Chochmah. So he says, "Vahem eses spheres to Abba, ela betoch ela." There are 10 spheres Abba, one inside of the other. Igul besilk igul, one ball inside of the next. Hatzion kol prati atzilus, until we come to the ultimate end of atzilus. The shanishla his agol eser iguli, the parts of arich. So now he says that there's a concept. He mentions the concept called atzilus, and he also mentions there's a concept here. What was that? Of Abba. So he says the Achasha Nishlabad his Agol Eser Igul in the parts of Arich, which is Keser. Yordim is Pashta Besachal Bachala Eser Igulim. So then another 10 balls come out. Shehem Eser spheres, the parts of Abba. We also use the parts of Abba, Anikra Chochma. Later we'll see why Chochma is called Abba. Vedel Chasari Igulim Heim Toch Chasari Igulim Darich, and they're inside. Because as the balls proceed, they get smaller and smaller. So he says that Asura Yigulin Darich Shemakiv Osam Saviv, which surrounds them around. Number Tes Vav. He says the call Igul Me'elu, so every one of these balls, Yesh or Makif Alav Agol Gam Kem Kamoso. So now we're getting a new concept that we don't have a real great use for yet. But this is the concept of or Makif, a surrounding light. Gam ken kamosa, the nimsa sheyesh or panimi, or makif, and now we see that we have two different kinds of lights. Again, we don't have a definition for them or what they are, but we'll see it later on, some concepts of this, of what they mean. There is an inside light, which is called an or panimi, and it's surrounded by another light. So like it has a halo around it in some way. For this is called or makif, and all of them are in a ball shape. So he says, "Kol igul min regulim shetoch zeh hachalol." All of the balls inside of this empty space. Yesh lo b'pratuso igul nosef ashecha b'maki v'socha b'kotzadod. There's an additional, even though we say with the word that there are balls inside of this space, but it's not just simple balls. But the balls actually have two different qualities, and he uses it as an additional quality, which is called a makif. That is a light, a halo. I don't know if that's the right word. Makif that's completely surrounds it. Shall we call or yesh bo bechinas or panimi or makif? So these are two phrases that we need for our Kabbalistic understanding of the Uri. There's two different types of or. They go together. One is called the or makif and the other one's called the or panimi. But nipsa the fizeh, shasari igulim heim ena masari igulim bilvad. It's not just 10 balls. Elohim is sari gulim ba'ofen she'asara mechem panimium, but they're actually 10 balls. And the balls have an inside concept and an outside concept, and therefore, so the asara mechem panimium, 10 of them are interior. V'asara mechem makivim, and then there are 10 of them that correspond to all of the panimium. Each one has a makif that goes with it. Ve'elohim makivim heim gam kemagulim, and the makivim are also in the same form. They're also ball-shaped. So since the light on the interior is agul, so the light that surrounds it Is it related? Is actually a part of the light. Later on, we're going to see this in detail. There's a lot more detail about the names that the Rav applies to this, and then we see that it's also going to be ball-shaped. Limsa sheish igol hanikra or panimi da'arich u'mesaviv lo omed igol hanikra or makif da'arich. So he pleases himself. He repeats himself, and he says, let's take a rik for example. Rich, we see that it's a ball-shaped. So a rich, in fact, is a panemius. It has an igel which is on the inside, and then there's another igel that surrounds it that is an igel of a rich. So it would be the makif der rich. Ubesochem yesh kli the abba, and inside of them there's a vessel for abba. Besavid lo yesh makif the abba. So again, he's using the word abba here instead of chachma. So there's another eagle inside of the eagle of a rich, and it's called Abba, and it also has two lights. As you go deeper and deeper and deeper, all lights will have a panemi and a makif. He calls sphere because prat, so every single sphere, every single detail of all of them, yesh lo panemi or makif. So if we said that there was spheros inside of spheros, inside of spheros, inside of spheros, it could go on infinitesimally. They would all have a panemi and a makif. The Yesh Bezek of the Rikus Devarim Be'etz Chaim, so the Eitz Chaim and Shar Igula and V'yosha Anav Gimel and Dalad goes into that in detail of how that would work. But later on, I think in Shar Akudim, which is a little bit coming up not so far down the road, we're going to see more about that, and we're going to see more about the idea. Number Tes Zayin, it says, so there's a second aspect here that we want to talk about. So now we're going to switch a little bit. The Rav's going to go a different direction. Now we have to understand that this we have explained, at least to the best that we can, and hopefully you get some physicists to try to believe in God, then they'll get a little bit idea of what's going on in the Rav here. But at any rate, in the midst of this agol, going through this agol, mispashe derek kava yasher bebekinas or dugmasa egel mamesh rak shuhu beyoser. Yosher. So now we have a qualitative difference between a line, the light of the line, and the light of the balls, because the line is coming into the center, and the line is going to be the real subject, as he's about to say, that we're going to deal with in the Eitz Chaim. It's all of the work of the Kabbalists, all deals with this line. Now what he wants to say is that the qualities of the ball, the same kind of labels that you apply to the ball are going to apply to the line, but they're different. There's a lot of difference between a ball, which is circular and cyclical, which I said before, my opinion is that this is more of a female concept, and the line, which is direct and straight. We're going to see how this goes. So it's just like it, but it's instead of being ball-shaped, it's a line. It also has the same partsufim, arich, abba v'ima, b'zer anpin, and the nuktazah, b'kulam v'yosher, but all of these are aspects of this line. So now we have to start looking at the line. Let's think about the line. When we said it was line, the line was the line of the Ein Sof, but we understand if we're looking at nothing, it's nothing. So we understand that it's there. How do we know that it's there? So we know that it's there parenthetically by observing what surrounds it. And that's what the Rav allows us to be able to talk about. We know that there's a line. So he says, V'hine, ad kon is boyer inyan de regulim shemis aglim zeh tok zeh. So up to this point we talked about balls which are developed one inside the next. So there is this hollow space which is ball-shaped, and it's filled up by a line of balls. Or a string of balls, let's say. Now, we're going to change the language. We're going to use the word kav. Kav means a line, spelled in this way. So this line, now we're going to talk about the line. There's a line that comes in, and it's machaya, it brings life force into the balls. So this is always straight. No matter what you say about it, it's always a line. It doesn't have any curves or bends in it. It's a line. And so this line is not an agel shape, but it's a line again. So as we had mentioned up above, as a mashal the galdi b'tzalim shem igul b'toch igul. So when we said that there is a mashal that we can make to an onion, and an onion is a peel inside of a peel inside of a peel. So the same thing is true about an onion, incidentally. The onion has some kind of a center piece to it that everything develops around, but here then we want to talk about the line that goes into the hollow. So it is similar to the balls. Or maki for panimi. So what we said before, that we introduced the ideas of two different types of line, an maki and a panimi. As called as spheres the chamesh partsufim. So now there also has 10 spheros of the 5 partsufim. And once again is going to name the 5 partsufim, which are Erik Anpin, which is called Keser, Abba Ve'ima, which are Chochma and Bina, Zer Anpin. There's also Zer Anpin, which is we're going to get new words and different kinds of definitions and qualifications for these. Zer Anpin is composed of 6 pieces, which are Chesed, Gevurah, Teferetz, Netzach, Hod, Yesod. So you could see all of this written here very nicely. Parts of Achamishi Shucha, parts of Achron, Nikra, Nukdazah. So the final, there are 5 parts of him. We just mentioned them. And the 5th one is the one that is called the Nukdazah, also known, he says in brackets, as Malchus. Now, this is really the object of our affection. And it's a great deal of work in order to be able to see how it is that we're going to bring the light of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu into Malchus. So all of these partsufim now are incorporated in this God, which is going down a straight line. The same way that we found that things were going in the Agulim, that we were talking from Keser, they're going down to the Malchus of the Agulim. And each one of them has 10 spheros and then 10 balls within it, and so on and so forth. We did the same thing in the line, but the line's not ball-shaped. But the B'china Zos HaShniya, Kara HaTorah Esa Adam Tselem Elokim. So this, because of this line, is that when the Torah says that man is created, God created man in the Tselem Elokim, so it refers to this line. This is a secret, and this is the secret of this line. Because it is a line which spreads in the form of lines. So we understand a vertical or horizontal orientation, whichever it would be, but in lines. Kamacha calls Sefer HaZayir v'tikunim Eina B'daber Ela B'Zeh HaYosher. So that all we see in the while we're learning the Rav is really to bring us to a position where we can learn other things, particularly the Zohar. So the Zohar is only dealing with the Yashar. This will be explained further as we go on. So here comes the Tiv chaim, and he says like this: Pirush. So he says the first aspect that we see inside of this challah. Now we mentioned that. So then there's a second bechina. Now it's a funny thing about this word bechina, exactly what it means, because when you're talking about something which is not physical, then we want to say it's an aspect of it, we kind of look at it a little bit. That's what it kind of means. Nikrat Tselem Elokim. So that is called, this line, the second part, is called the Tselem of Elokim. Now later on, further on in the Otzrot chaim, we're going to find out what this word Tselem means. Or the Tselem is really broken up into 3 letters, Sadik, Lamed, and Mem, and each one of them refers to something different. I could just tell you that since we had the concept of a Panimi and Yosher, the concept of the Tzadi is Panimius. Later we can explain this. It's part of the whole system. The Lamed is one kind of Makif, and the Mem is another kind of Makif. We're going to see where this goes, how it fits, what it goes together. Everything is in this form, this kind of form like this, of a tzelem. Tzelem again, like I said, I cheated a little bit and I said, well, it means the inner light, it means outer lights. There's 2 of them, 2 different kinds. We don't know too much about what he means when he says the word light. So the way that we stand up, and that we have arms and legs, head, body, arms and legs, we've talked about this before, Rosh Dok Sof. All of this is a relationship to this concept of Tzelem. So therefore, in most places in the Zohar, it's only mentioned the Yosher. As I said before, the Agulim mostly refers to Jewish astrology. So what's the idea of astrology there is that the influences that are constantly coming to the earth where we stand, from the stars and so on and so forth, and working in circular formation. But the Rav, in terms of our prayers, is what we want to do to be able to accomplish in the work and the study of Kabbalah is in order to be able to elevate. So we're talking about something vertical, possibly horizontal, because it could be the same thing, but they're always in a straight line. V'kol masha shaharav hizkir kan igulim, so that as much as the Rav has been talking about igulim, hurak mishum shuratz of the hodiano shemavad bechinas yosher. Besides the aspect of yosher, yeshnam gam came bechinas igulim. There is also an aspect of balls. Now let's go to another one. Let's see what this says. It says Ravada ki bezeha ila atzilus. Yesh mini olamos the kate. So in this concept of Atzilus, that is this first set of distancings that the Ma'atzel brought out, there is another worlds in there to be uncountable. Vein ano ata bebiuram. We're not here to start talking about how things develop one thing out of another into ad infinitum. So let's talk about one detail that's going to incorporate all of the reality of this challah. And from this one prat, this one detail, that's why I use the word prat, but it's sort of part of it, so that we're going to explain all of reality that we understand and that is in front of us. But all the business of a Kabbalist, everything that you need to know, is going to come out of this. Kamosha Devar Bezes Hashem, is God willing, that's what we're going to be learning. Adam Kadmon. So this is a new word, a word he mentioned earlier, but he's going to start developing it now, is the reality of something which is called Adam Kadmon. Why is he called Adam Kadmon? The call the Kodmin, this is the Adam. Again, Adam, we don't know what Adam means yet. That Adam is the man that comes before all the others. The very basic, the most inside, the most panimi, in the beginning of all things. And Nizker Bezoyer, which is called in the Zohar Parshas Tete, Daf Reish Mites on the base, Ubetikunim, and he mentions that. V'achrab nimshach seder kol v'dregos kulam. So after you have a place where you could start to try to explain reality, you have to start in this place which is called Ak, Adam Kadma. So he says, the Tiv says, Le'el nizbar shala'akri histalkos atzimsum or ha'ensof min ha'chalal. So now we have created a halal by a negative aspect of removing the light of nothingness. So now we have something, and it's ball-shaped. Chazav and nikdas chuddak. So then we said that a very fine, very thin thread, infinitesimally thin, Sha'or el tocha chalo, of the light of the Ein Sof, enters into this chalo. So this is a picture that we've had already, talked about it to some extent. Minei chud zeh sha'or Ein Sof, yesh mesaviva bechinas gufa nikra adam kadmon ak. Now this is what I tried to say before, is that how do we know there's an ak? Because ak is something, let's say, that in our minds we can, and mind is a big part of this, is that in our minds we can picture this surrounding, this clothing that clothes the infinitesimal line of light. V'hu kudugmas adam atachton is similar to us. Saying it again, hakala beguf shebesochel neshama. Like it has a body, like a person has a body, and inside of us is our neshama. So it goes like this, that Ak is actually the body. So we have a little definition here now of what neshama means, but this is basic metaphor is like just like we have a neshama inside of ourselves, which means the panemius, the godly panemius that's within every cell of our bodies, every part of reality really, is a concept of something called neshama, panemius. In this case, in the case of Ak, the Panemios is the Ein Sof Baruch Hu. But Bechinas Ak ve'elach nitnin reshus l'daber. From that point on, from the part that we can conceive in our minds, we can't really conceive of what Ein Sof could be. We just have a word for it. This is just a word, just a set of words. That's it. But we could have some idea of what's going on with Ak. So he says, Ak lamala mimeno, that is more close to the Ein Sof. If there is a differentiation somewhere, like you have a clothing of the line of the Ein Sof, which is called Adam Kadmon. And if there's something in between Adam Kadmon and the Ein Sof Baruch Hu, well, there is conversation about this, but that's not the purvey over here. That's not what the Rav wants us to talk about. So in Ein Lana Rishus L'Daber, so he says we have no permission to talk about the inner, if you go more panimi from Ak to the Ein Sof. V'chein bebechinas chut or Ein Sof shu or Ein Sof mamish, but that chut, which we said is a line of nothingness into something. Ein Lana Rishus L'Daber B'Klal, we have no permission to talk about it at all. Rak bebechinas Ak ve'eloch, so only from Ak, and then as we go more chitzoni to Ak, so we have a getting concept now of in and out. A nikra levush be'erek l'chut or Ein Sof, so it's called a garment or clothing in regards to the chut of the Ein Sof. V'yesh lanu b'shus l'daber. Now on that clothing we can talk about it. L'ficha v'zucha b'chinach a nikras Adam Kadmon l'kol kodmin. Now so this particular idea is called the Adam Kadmon. He's the beginning or become before all befores. First of all. V'hina mechut or Ein Sof ad ak yeshnam olamos rabim le'en kate. So for the chut of the Ein Sof, till you get to the Adam Kadmon, there's many, many universes there. Asher kama bechem masa rizal al tamida b'harid sarotzal. So he gave some of these ideas to the Ri Sarok about the things that were in between the Ein Sof and the Adam Kadmon. But none of that is revealed here. So anything higher than Ak, we don't deal with it. The reason why we don't deal with it is because it has no functionality for us. We are here to effect a tikkun. That's why we have a tikkun elevator kollel, and that's why we have yeshivat mali tatikun, because what we were looking to do as Kabbalists is to find a way in the panemias to be able to sweeten dinim. That's what we try to do. Because after you already have, Shagila Harizal as so the Ak, so now once he has revealed to us the secret of this Ak, Shuv Ein Medaber Be'inyan Chut or Ein Sof, then he doesn't talk about the Chut of the Ein Sof. He doesn't want to talk about it because we're not describing what infinity is like. It's not our job. Umahai time agam Ein Medaber Be'inyan his Chavos Ak Ayadei Tzimtzum. So now he's not going to try to say anymore, but he talked about the Tzimtzum, which withdrew his light and so on and so forth. We're not going to talk about how it is that they developed an Ak, how there was a covering to this line of the Ein Sof that went into the Igel. Because then you'll start talking about the chut. So we're not really interested in that, and so the Rav doesn't go to it because it's not going to help us. But Harav Einu wrote to the chut klal. He doesn't want to talk about the infinity of this line, or what it means, or what its possibilities are, where it came from. Now he switches the Tiv switches and says something a D-Tiv. He says, in this covering over the Ein Sof, there are openings. Yesh kavim shown in different kinds of openings. So the Ak covers over this chut, but there are openings in the Ak. And as a result of that, the light of the Ein Sof comes through those openings. So now the lights that come out of Ak, Hem kol alomos bia. They are all the worlds of a bia. So what is a bia? A bia are the basic universes that we talk about. And there's 5 because Ak is 1. And the next one is called the Tzilus, and surrounding that is called Bria. Surrounding that is called Yetzira, and surrounding that is called Asiya. So he says, and also the worlds that are higher than Abiyah, we were discussing until Olam Atzilos, who rak machatiba the Ak ad kaf ragla. So now we're starting to get into one of the basic ways that the Rav has given us to be able to understand reality. So if you have an image of what a person looks like, and that would be Ak, then we would say that there's also surrounding persons that surround them in different kinds of places. So let's look at his words again. On the third line, on the second column, on page Zion, it said, "V'kol ha'olamu shalamala me'aba." So all of the Abiyah, rather, all of the universes that are higher than Abiyah, which in other words, what to say, more close to the Ein Sof Baruch Hu. Ki olam ha'atzilus hu rak machatibur da'ak ad kaf ragla. Where is Atzilus located? So if you had a man, and you would say from his belly button, this it's called the tibor, from that place downwards is the only place that Atzilus is located. V'kafa regel, it goes all the way down to the foot, so to speak, of the man. As these metaphors are going to have to be worked on, and we're going to have to work very hard to understand these different kinds of relationships and where the different spiritual forces surround this basic fundamental spiritual force called Ak. So v'kafa regel omdim olamos bia. So then when you get down from below the sole of the foot, then you start seeing that there are other universes down below, and they are outside of the purview of Ak. They're not necessarily surrounding Ak or getting direct light from Ak. Instead, they're getting light below it from a different world. These are the Olomas of Bria, Yitzir, and Asiya, called Bia. Both in Shekol Olomas of Bia, Yotze Me'ak. So in one way or another, either the light is coming out from below the feet, which we said in the case of Bia, or much closer on a much higher madrega to Ak. They would be in for the Tibur Lamata, for the Tibur going downwards of Ak. So this is called Tibur Lamata. We're going to have different kinds of relationships like this, and we'll be using this kind of words a lot. Okay, we're going to do one more. Let's see if we can do one more number Yud Tes. He said, "Da ki bezel hachalo nimsa." There's another. There's there's another way of saying it, which is Ne'atzel. So he says that what's coming out of the Chalo, or the Natzel, he said, let me read again. Ada ki bezel ha'chalo nimsa, or he says Ne'atzel, is put in the distance. Zeh ha'adam ha'nikra kadmon l'kol ha'kodmin k'nizkar, that in the sense now, in this middle of this ball, which is this eagle, now we find that there is this lavush around the line of the Ein Sof, which is called Ak. So if you looked at Ak, you would see from the head to the toes, there are 10 spheros. Mamaleo says called a chalo azel, and they cover the entire line of the line, the higher form of the line. So the line goes from the beginning of where it enters into the chalo down to the bottom almost. And that line is covered over, as we said before, as the balls are getting further away, so you have the same thing happening here, but a little slightly different. There were 10 spheros here, from the top to the bottom of Adam Kadmon. So again, he's repeating himself. He says that very first world, the world that we're dealing with, more panimi or more high than this, we don't talk about any other worlds. Nikra Ak Kanizkar. It's called Adam Kadmon, and we're always going to call it Ak. And from it are going to come out 10 complete spheros. And they're going to go in a pattern of the development of every olam. So we don't know about all the olamos, but we're going to say all the olamos follow the same pattern. Behema Malayas is called a chalal. So what happens is that these fill up the entire chalal. They are the subject of this chalal. That's interesting to me to remember that in the midst of what we're about to get into, and don't forget, there's this igulim pattern, which has nothing to do with this. Well, it does, but it doesn't, but they don't fit. It's like, again, male and female, they're not the same. It's like your wife's not like your buddy, your husband's not like your a good friend. It's not the same thing because they're different. But nonetheless, they exist in the same pattern, and creation really has to do with these two things. So that's going to be way far back in the back of our mind, because from now on, we're going to be talking about Ak. Because now the light has become thicker as a result of its simsum. Why has it become thicker? And what are we becoming more coarse? Because there's less light, because that's the whole idea. The Simpson is to withdraw the light of the Ein Sof light. So it's a backwards concept. Shuv hu einoch bedargo or Ein Sof. So what happens is, as a result of covering it over, you thicken the light. The light is shining out through this Ak, but it's not the same light anymore. It's a thicker one. It's a more physical one. Sheniz boyer bo sheim hoyu shuv shav or ein sof mamala is kol lachalo. So this, what happens is this ak now limits the amount of light that could be throughout the entire hollow, so it's limiting it down. So then, if it would just had a light of the Ein Sof or just a column, even though that didn't go all the way through, but then what would be able to be existing inside of this ball if it wasn't filtered down in some way? So the idea of the covering is a filter. What is this whole idea of alvasha, how things are closed one another. That's going to be a part of our conversation. Thank you.